Welcome to DJNTV and Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. Now introducing the one and only Ben Stowe.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. So it says if you're wanting to get the absolute best pizza, the time and the place is Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe, where Ben is going to bring the ultimate pizza recipe. No, wait.
Sorry. You've mistaken me for Rachel Lynch.
Rachel's show. I'm sorry. Wrong show. Where's my script? Oh, I left it in.
Let's just do it live. We'll do it live.
Punt.
Do it live.
Ice cream. It was the ice cream. No, you don't have a favorite ice cream. We've tried that one before. That did. Oh. Well, I guess let's talk gear.
Okay.
Let's talk gear. Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are coming to you from the lovely state of Minnesota, where we don't have a foot of snow on the ground. Yay!
We still have some. Do you guys have any?
A little bit, yeah. There's a little bit in the ditches. Yeah. It's kind of weird this year is that we've got, because of this storm that we had and it was so wet last time and it was these clumps, we've got these little snow things that stick up. It's like you're going along and it's like, it looks like somebody put a snow cone or something like right next to the edge of the road. And it's like all by itself. And there's this little 12 to 16 inch tall sphere or whatever of snow.
Don't eat the yellow snow cones.
You wouldn't want to eat it. No. But it's there. And they're all over the place. It's like, wait.
It's not lemon.
So on the way home today from work, and I'm coming down the driveway, and it's like, okay, there looks like 6 of them. And so, this is like either going to be me running them over or it's the ultimate slalom course, I ran them over because, if I go too far into the ditch, then I'd, have to explain that one to the rest of the family of why were you in the ditch and it's muddy and there's water standing.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were there. So,
remember, John, growing old is mandatory, but growing up is optional.
It is, but then, when you get into ditch and then you have to call the wrecker to come and pull the car and it costs $200, then, then adulting kicks in and says, let's just wave to them as you go by. Yeah, I think that's how it goes. That's how it goes. So tonight, we've got a big show for you guys out there. We've got, literally, you're covering all the bases. We've got a lot of topics we're going to hit tonight. So we should probably just jump into it so we can give some of those topics some time. Just to give you a little heads up, we're going to be talking about a little bit about mic stands. We're going to be talking about some music as far as why some songs are so much louder, and there's some things involved with that, and get into that one. And we're also going to talk about kind of a reflection of last week's or the last couple of weeks where we've talked about gear and should you be buying it now in relation to what's going on in our world. And we're going to dig into all those topics right.
I think the word you're avoiding is tariffs.
I didn't want to use that word because that might just trigger some weird ads on my Facebook page. But
oh boy,
but we'll get into that. But before we do that, we're going to put our little marker in here and do our joke of the week. All right, Ben, what do you have for us this week?
What is a DJ's favorite vegetable?
Favorite vegetable? I'm not sure. What would be a DJ's favorite vegetable?
Beets.
Beets dropping. I see. And beets are good for you.
That's what they tell me. I don't know.
That was one of the things when it came to blood pressure. Beets was an actual. So I mean, it's not only accurate.
Sugar beets count?
No. It's got to be the purpley ones. So, come on, those are good. See, you're not going to live to 150 with that kind of an attitude. Now let's just.
I'm not going to live to 50.
You're not with that attitude. So
yeah.
Let's jump into. We're going to do 2 questions to start our night out, and then we'll continue on. But let's get to our first question. So I want to dive right into the one that wasn't the scheduled or planned one. Let's talk about gear when it comes to the tariffs and such, because people are wondering. I'm gonna jump back went to the car dealership last week to get some service done, and they have been selling cars. Last night, one of the lead stories in the Minneapolis News was talking about they've sold hundreds of cars. People are just there and they're ready to buy, and it's almost this crazy, I've got money, what do you have available? We're into that world right now for this moment in time. So in the world of gear with the DJ, for people who are wondering, what should I do? What kind of advice can you give us?
Well, I think, like all things that we talk about on this show, it depends. And I'm going to try to lay out some scenarios both ways because I don't know that there's just one answer for everybody here. Um, I don't think we're going to see quite the shortage that we saw before with supply chain disruption in 2020, 2021. Kind of what's happening with cars right now. I do think without a doubt we will see increases. In fact, that's not a thought, that's a knowledge. I mean, we have been getting regular updates from manufacturers, new prices taking effect this day, that day. Many manufacturers are doing it on very short notice, and they're not honoring any old pricing. It's nobody can absorb these increases now. Midnight tonight. Be interesting to see how this show ages.
Yeah, this one
But
could age really well, or it could be by tomorrow
yeah,
afternoon. It could be a complete bomb.
exactly. Start date April 8th, 2025. Right.
Yeah, there we are.
So midnight tonight, the tariffs on China, where a good chunk of our gear is manufactured, not all of it, but a good chunk, a significant chunk. And of course, remember, there's parts that are made there that are then assembled elsewhere too. So, these days the world is a fairly interconnected place. And of course, there are, tariffs on lots of other countries, but effective midnight tonight, tariffs on China are to now go to 104%. And the brinksmanship by both sides seems to be just kind of escalating. So I guess the point is nobody can absorb that, right? There's not that kind of margin in the supply chain, so the manufacturers have to raise their prices. So I think what that leads us to is to say, if you were planning to upgrade, and particularly if you were planning to upgrade this year, I'd get a move on it. I'd do it quick, because really within a matter of days or weeks, we're going to see fairly significant increases. And we've already seen some from some manufacturers. We just got a second increase notice from a manufacturer, so, and it's going to be really across the board. But if you if you just bought your gear and you've got you're kind of thinking I can ride it out for a couple of years, then I don't see any problem with that. I don't know that I would rush to buy something if you have gear that's in good shape and you're not planning on replacing it. I think that's kind of the deciding factor for me is where it's at in that capital plan that we talked about the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
um, you know, and people have said, well, should I wait until later this year? I don't think it's coming down. First of all, manufacturers have already absorbed some of the increases, so they're going to sell later at the higher prices for a longer period of time to try to, refill their coffers a little bit.
Sure.
And two, there's an old, it's an old economic trend called stickiness, where once they get up there, they tend to stick up there.
Yeah.
So I think that the prices will go up faster than they will come down. So I know who knows what's happening in the next week or month or 3 months. Nobody can tell you. But I guess if I were to err on the side of caution, I would say, we're at the beginning of the wedding season and things now. It would be a really good time to, get into that gear. I don't think we're going to see a rush of panic buying. I don't think we're going to see shortages of supply chains. But, there are a lot of scenarios that could occur, right? Nintendo put a pause on launching the new Switch. Some manufacturers may say, let's just hold off and see what happens here. And that could create some shortages, where the product is sitting in China. They don't want to bring it over here yet. They're making it there and just holding it there, waiting to see what happens. And so we could run into some of that. We could run into some shortages here too.
Before we started, you kind of mentioned a little bit, because one of the preconceptions or what have you that we've had over the years is that much of the manufacturing has been moved from the United States to China because of the cheaper labor over there. And you were kind of alluding to that that's really kind of a false belief. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, NLFX manufactures a lot of stuff in the United States, and we manufacture a few things overseas because we couldn't find factories in the United States willing to do it. We couldn't find the skilled labor necessary to do it. Or certainly not even, at a remotely close price comparison. But we're really kind of a tiny little fish in the grand scheme of things. Let's look at a much bigger fish like Apple. And this goes back, Steve Jobs said this decades ago. And then Tim Cook said this to President Obama and certainly President Trump. And, Apple has some like 700,000 workers working in China, and they have 30,000 engineers to work with these 700,000 workers. And he basically said, we can't find 30,000 engineers in the United States. We couldn't move the factory here if we wanted to, because there's nobody to work it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that represents, some significant challenges for us in the United States, that, we've allowed this to occur over the last 20, 30 years, kind of a shift of how we see things in this country, and what we saw ourselves. And we've allowed some of that industrialized base to erode. And, we said, well, we'll focus on things like airplanes and, military tech and that sort of thing. And so, it would be very difficult to scale up to the kind of manufacturing that's being done right now, where they have basically these like factory cities.
Mm-hmm.
They all live there. And that's just not really, what we're accustomed to here in the United States. And in my career, I watched, I toured the Electro Voice plant in Morrilton, Arkansas. I watched them make EV speakers there. I watched them wind voice coils and magnetize magnets. And EV, to their credit, they were one of the very last companies that left the United States. Basically, everybody else had gone to China, and they were at such a price disadvantage they had to do it, to go to Mexico and China. But I watched QSC amplifiers being made in Costa Mesa, California. I watched Stanton Styli being made in Florida. A bunch of little old ladies sitting there winding Styli, cartridge, windings. Sennheiser microphones used to be made in New Mexico. So in my career, I've seen all this stuff leave the United States. So could it come back? Yeah, I think it could. I'm not saying it couldn't at all. I'm just saying it isn't going to happen overnight. This occurred over 30 years, and we have to make a conscious effort and a conscious plan to reshore manufacturing here. And I certainly hope that we do have a stronger industrial base, and we can do that. But that too, to answer the question about when to buy gear, that's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to be a fast fix. So, and also, I think that we will see increases even to things like our cable, which is made in the United States. And I mean, all of it. The only thing that's not is the connectors come from Liechtenstein because they're Neutrik, but it's going to drive up some of the U.S. costs too. I'm afraid.
Oh yeah, I would imagine so. Because I mean, everything's way more connected than we would ever imagine.
Incredibly so. It just, if you look at a, component list of origin, it's really broad, right? But anyway, I'm not a politician. I'm not that smart of a guy. I'm not an economist. Certainly, I don't know, where this is headed in the long term, and I can't wrap my head around it. I'll just say, for the short term, if you're needing to upgrade your gear, I wouldn't sleep on it. And if you're not, then you're probably okay to see what happens over the next couple of years. But I don't think that whatever is going to happen is going to change quickly. I think that it seems pretty clear, at least for the moment, that, China and the U.S. are each trying to see who's going to blink first. And I know we got some of the early temporary reprieves from the tariffs, and some people thought, well, they'll go away quickly. I'm not so sure this time. I don't know.
Very tough to tell.
I wouldn't bank on it. You're kind of gambling, I think,
Yeah. And that's definitely a gamble or risk that a person could lose, and financially be a much more expensive chance or purchase then.
Now, the good news, if there is good news here, and I think there is, I think if we have a stronger industrialized base, and there's a lot of things that could be good here, right? I mean, I'm just going to keep an optimistic outlook on it. But I think the other good news is that gear has gotten so incredibly cheap. Really, I know it doesn't feel that way when you're buying it, but if you and I think about what we paid back in the 90s and the proportional cost of things, I was talking to a loudspeaker manufacturer, and they make a speaker that's $399, and they were talking about the speaker might now be $499. And I said, and this is going to lose me a lot of friends, but just hear me out. Just don't react to what I'm going to say. Think about what I'm saying. Maybe the $399 speaker was the problem, and there's lots of examples of that where we've got stuff so cheap that we began to forget what it really costs, I think, to make that stuff, right? So I like cheap stuff too, don't get me wrong, but I guess my point is, in the grand scheme of things, if we amortize things like we talked about the last 2 weeks, if there's a 20% or 30% increase in the price of gear, that's certainly going to hurt. you can still make money as a DJ. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, you mentioned, of course, the price of speakers. So we bought our very first speakers, PV speakers, $325 a cabinet with no amplifier.
What year was that?
That would be 1989. So $325. So just to correlate it, at that time, our very first couple of weddings that we did, and the going rate for weddings for DJs around the area was $200. So think about this. To buy one of those speakers, I would have had to have worked 2 weddings and basically put all that money into the speaker, within reason.
So what year was that?
That was 1989.
1989. Okay. So that is 320. This is really important right now. Okay. Because this kind of makes my point. And maybe gives everybody a little bit of mental aspirin, $325 in 1989. If you bought that same speaker today for the same exact money, that's $851. So that's part of that is that perception shift, right? So if we're saying, well, if we can get a speaker now for $399, what is that in $1980, right? $1989.
Yeah, exactly. And that speaker probably can be louder than the one was from 89, and it has an amplifier built into it. I had to go buy.
That's my point. That's my point. The gear has never been cheaper. $149 is the answer, by the way. $149. I got a little calculator open here.
Yep.
So if you were to buy a speaker now for $399, that going back to 1989 would have been $149.
And you couldn't. There wasn't anything available in that price range.
No, that's my point.
Yeah,
our gear is so incredibly and disproportionately cheap right now. And again, I know that somebody just heard me say that and they went, "You just want to be more expensive." No, I didn't say that. What I'm telling you is this is complicated, but we've also allowed ourselves to kind of be drawn into this belief that this is what things should cost. And I think it's been pretty clear that we've headed for a reckoning for a long time, whether it's the trade deficit or the federal deficit or whatever. And again, I'm not an economist. I'm a sound guy. I don't really understand these things. I didn't really want to get into all this, but it is interesting to kind of think about those things. And really, the world is a very messy place. There's very few things that are as cut and dry and clean as we would like them to be.
Yeah, just to kind of finish it from my perspective, we did $200 weddings, so we basically did 2 weddings to pay for that one speaker. Well, speaker amplifier was about $1,000 for those 4 pieces back in that time, which would be about $2,500. I think with your math today.
2619.
2619. So that was just for in essence a 2-speaker system. 2619 would get you $1,300 tops. That's a pretty nice top. That's an upper, the one of the top 2 tiers for most of the manufacturers. And that's speakers today would blow the 1989 speaker completely out of the water.
Yeah, we are pretty spoiled right now.
So yeah, I mean,
and again, nobody wants to pay more. Not me, not you, not anybody else. I mean, I think we all can agree on that. But I think it doesn't really matter because that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
And so I guess again, I'm trying to make myself feel better about it. But I buy a lot of gear for my shows. But I think the moral of the story is if you are planning to upgrade in 2025, I would do it quick because this stuff these tariffs are taking effect immediately. It doesn't matter when the goods were manufactured. If they hit the shore tomorrow, they're getting those tariffs applied. So the manufacturers are going to raise the prices quick. I mean, you have probably days, if not weeks, before and we've already had some price increases take effect in March and early April. There will be more. And as more manufacturers do it, others will do it. And there's an interesting thing too called the de minimis loophole, which used to be anything that you imported under $800 didn't get hit with that. So people who were buying the direct from China stuff, you were sort of skirting all these things, right? You weren't breaking the law because the law said under $800, it didn't have to be inspected or whatever, didn't have to, be subject to, all that.
Yep.
But Well, that's gone too. So,
Hmm.
so it's across the board now. It
And
doesn't matter if you buy your lights from Wish.com or whatever. It's happening. So,
yeah, and to kind of feed into that one, I work at the post office, and we had notifications starting yesterday. Basically, if you've got a package that's coming in from international places, we're supposed to hold it and notify our postmaster, and then they can tell us of because there's going to be most likely money due.
oh yeah, you're going to get some sticker shock.
Yeah,
And if you think about like 104%, well, that means double,
you
right?
basically,
So
yeah, you bought it again.
yeah, if you bought it for $500, you're going to get another $500 bill when it gets here. So now
Yeah,
you paid $1,000 for it.
yeah.
So, and half of that literally was just,
So,
tax
as in
basically.
my position at the post office, I'm really hoping no one orders for a while. I don't have international packages coming through because it's like, I don't want to be the one who has to say, oh, by the way, your $25 item is now $50. Postage due 25, please. Yeah, no, I don't want to be
Okay,
that guy.
I do not envy you. I mean, gosh, it's no fun sitting at my desk and
Yeah,
people say, but I bought this 5 years ago, and yeah, well, that was 5 years ago.
yeah. It wasn't like I ordered it last week and now all of a sudden it's another. What? Yeah, I'm sorry. Uh, all right, let's jump to our second question of the night. So people were talking about toast and such, and they were recommending for having better toast that they have a microphone stand and the little kind of a area together. And then that became a question as it evolved, and they were discussing how to set this up. But they were talking about what kind of a mic stand would be a quality enough mic stand to be able to look good, to be able to be something that's flexible enough, to be able to not be something cheap that would fall, whatever. And it's like, that could be a great topic for Ben to kind of give us an idea because there's some really cheap mic stands out there that are horrible. And that's not what we're wanting. We want something that they can go up there and to be a piece that is kind of like an official in basketball. It's there, it's doing its job, but no one will notice when it's doing its job and doing it right.
I felt like this is a good opportunity to just sort of lampoon some of the Major League Baseball umpires who get
That's why you went
noticed.
basketball. You might have noticed I went basketball.
I noticed you
I didn't go.
guided me away. I don't know anything about basketball, so all right. Well, let me just first say, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? Cheap is cheap. And now, if we're talking about 100% tariffs from China, that means, half the price upon import purely is tariff, right? So only half of that is the cost of the good, right? So, if it's cheap, it's probably really cheap, right? Uh, and that's not to say that all stands made in China are bad. That's not at all what I'm saying. But I think that's part of that is just recognizing that, you're going to have to spend a little money to get a quality, well built stand, and there are cheap stands from a variety of manufacturers, and some of these same manufacturers have quality ones. So I'm not even going to really name any names. I think if I was to name one name, it would be K&M, which is probably one of the most well-known stand companies, and the vast majority of their stuff is made in Germany. So subject to a little bit lower tariffs. Sadly, I can't think of a single mic stand made in the U.S., but anyway, let me just talk about a couple types of stands. I'm going to do a quick share here. Let's see, get into this. So here's a couple examples we'll just talk about, and the one on the left does happen to be a K&M, by the way, just for fun. But there are great stands from all kinds of companies: Gator, On Stage, Gravity. Um, Sorry, my brain is going blank. Ultimate Support. There's cheap and good stands from everybody. So let's talk type real quick first. I prefer on the left a a tripod base stand. One, I think they're a little bit easier to transport, and two, the base spreads out a little more with the tripod legs, so it's a little bit more stable,
Okay.
particularly if you're on grass or uneven ground. But of course, weighted base mic stands, as you see on the right, are also super common. And I just wanted to kind of put this out here. Again, the quality of the stand is going to affect all kinds of things like the clutch, all the moving, tightening parts, right? Cheap ones tend to strip out a lot easier. Um, but also, one thing I like about a tripod stand is particularly outdoors, if you've got a microphone extended out on a boom or, it's windy or whatever, you can put a sandbag on it.
Yeah.
like my
Nice.
animation there.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
You want to see it again? Look at that. That's pretty cool. Here we go. So
Look at that.
that's a real
That's pretty
super.
high end right there.
Yeah,
I
thank
mean,
you.
I've got those stands, but now I want to buy another one just so I can, watch a sandbag come down on it.
So
That's
yeah, and I think the other part of the stand is the clip, and here again, there's a lot of different options. We've got kind of we'll say a one size fits all, fits most of your standard microphones. And by standard microphones, really kind of fits the same. Here's the Shure name brand one. And you can see they list basically all their common, SM48, SM58, 57, blah, 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 betas. Those are your common wired mics. And then for wireless, there are a few variants. Most of your wireless mics should come with a clip that should do a pretty good job of holding the mic and also releasing the mic smoothly and easily and allowing them to reclip it. Of course, there's nothing worse than that, right? But like Sennheiser has their wireless clip. It works pretty well. Vice versa with the Shure and the Sennheiser, they'll hold each other's wirelesses pretty well. And you can also get other clips like something like this. They call it a clothespin clip, where it's spring loaded. These do tend to break a little faster, I think, but
so what are you using with live applications when you have singers up there? Because they're going to do a combination of holding, and then they're going to put the microphone in. And I don't hear the clunk, 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 clunk very often when they put that mic into the stand. How are you? Is it the clip or what?
It's a combination of things. It's the clip for sure. Using a good clip and good microphones is a key thing, and that's obviously on the stages that we're doing, you kind of have both, but they're not priced out of the range. I mean, some of these microphones are $99. They're the same ones you could use, without a doubt. And also it helps when your artist knows what they're doing, that doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But we use a lot of these clips, our own NLFX ones. We use a lot of those, and we use a lot of the factory ones. We use a lot of the Shure clips and the Sennheiser clips and the EV clips, and the whatever the kind of standard clips. They work pretty well. Cheaper clips, it's kind of the same story, right? They're maybe not as pliable a material. Maybe they're a little more brittle. Maybe a little noisier, the Shure and the Sennheiser wireless clips are sort of a softer rubber. The Shure has kind of some fins in the bottom of it that are designed to kind of hold that mic, but also minimize the amount of shock noise. Lastly, don't discount the value of a sound guy who's being attentive and sees that mic going in the clip and can drop that fader real quick. So,
there is that.
It's a combination of a lot of things is kind of my point, so.
Except they're talking the whole time as they're putting the microphone into, it's like, yeah.
Yeah, not much you can do there. Just write it out,
Yeah,
and hope that they, do a good job. But again, good mics, good clips, good stands. The key thing with stands really not just the stability while you're using it, but the number of times you're going to get to use it. The cheap stands just break fast. They're just flimsier. The clutches strip out really fast. The boom arm assemblies strip out fast. I think short of giving a specific example now or whatever, probably the best thing is just drop us a line at NLFX and say, I'm using it for this. I use this wireless on it, or I put a condenser on it, or I do this, or I do that. And we could throw you a couple options. Be prepared to spend probably $50 to $80 for a decent boom arm stand.
Sure. Nice. Excellent. Let's jump to our next segment here tonight. Question. Okay. All right, let's wrap up with our last question of tonight. So we've talked about music, and you kind of alluded to this a little bit with compression in music, and one of the things is that some music is much more demanding of our sound systems than others, and there's different elements. Some songs sound so much louder, And yet, our DJ software says, oh, they're both equal, even though it sounds just so much louder. What is causing this? If you kind of help us understand that a little bit better.
Well, first, emphatic yes for me. There's a thing called the loudness wars, which contributed and contributes
Is this
to
like the
that.
Clone Wars?
It's like that, but different. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's take a bit of a nerdy path there, if you would.
This is sounding excellent.
Indulge me. It's my show. All right. Talking to the viewers here.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. We got our
Space. Yes.
A black screen.
This
Amazing.
might be the hyperspace wars.
Let's talk about crest factor for a second, because
like...
at the end of the day, that's basically what we're talking about here. We're talking about the difference in decibels between the peak and the RMS levels of a signal. So you can see the formula there: crest factor equals peaks divided by RMS. So what is RMS? Well, RMS is the root mean square. What is the root mean square? This is the root mean square.
Yeah.
No, not
really.
But it's pretty cool.
It is pretty.
I was pretty excited when I was like, "Ooh, a square root." That's look at that.
So, yeah.
So all right, moving right along. Let's get into what it really is. So root mean square. Mathematicians are going to really freak out if I say it's kind of like the average. So I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to say that. So let's figure out the crest factor of this sine wave, and it's a perfect sine wave. Basically everybody knows. Well, you should, right? Everybody knows this. That sine waves have a crest factor of 3, but we're going to show you how we get there. And if you didn't know it, I'm going to show you how we get there. Now you know it, right? So we're going to take this to calculate that it's 0.707. Come on, clicker. Woo, got too much ahead of me. We take 1 divided by 0.707 and equals 1.41. And then people who are familiar with their inverse square law calculation will recognize this, the 20 log. But we can see that that is 3 dB. So the maths, I don't want to spend a lot of time on the math because some people are going, I really don't care. But point is, I just want to prove that this is real. There's like real science behind this. This isn't stuff we made up, that helps us understand how this works. And I'm going to show you how this works with actual amplifier power in a minute. And then I promise I'm going to tell you why this matters and why what you experience with the song is happening, and also what it can mean for your system and the strain on it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, John, hang in there with me. I'm going to bring it home for you.
Nice.
So,
yeah, because the number thing, you start throwing numbers out there and it's like, okay, where do those numbers come from? What do they mean?
Yeah, everybody loves when I start doing stuff like this. Like when I do it at the conferences, people stand up and they clap and they cheer and they're just, it's almost like, rock star where people start throwing clothes at you, except they're not throwing clothes. They're throwing sharp objects at me. But anyway,
there is that. Yeah. They're like, the notebook that they were going to fill with notes and now they're just confused and they're just sad.
They're like, what is this guy doing?
What are you doing?
I came to hear Big Daddy speak. Get this
log
guy
what? Log what? Times who?
So this is pretty much everybody has seen, waveform peaks, right? You can see this in a number of audio programs.
Mm-hmm.
These screenshots are all taken from Audacity. Chose that on purpose. It's a free program, so you can download it and play with this and try it. And I hope you do. But what we can see here is this is what it looks like for pink noise, which, equates to equal energy, across, all octaves. And it has a crest factor of 6 dB. So we can see that the crest factor is much higher than a sine wave, which we know is 3 dB. We just checked that out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you what this means in a second here. Speech has a very high crest factor of minus 12 dB. And we can see that there's a lot less blue here. So we have a lot less signal relative to the quiet points. And in fact, if you were to analyze my talking right now and look at this, in a spectral sense, or in just a general amplitude graph sense, you would see that, like right there, I paused. There's no sound.
Mm-hmm.
There's other times where I'm talking. I know it feels like I don't ever stop, but I do. So
there is that moment.
Thank you. Yeah. We're flush with the jokes now. It's better than the beach joke earlier. Yeah. So, but here we can see music can have a crest factor that really, really varies, and more on this with some specific examples. But as a general average, music has a crest factor of somewhere between 10 to 20 dB. So What does that mean? By the way, we did a show on this, John, and look at these young, handsome fellas here. Go back to what was this episode number 145? What are we on now? Like
Oh
400
goodness,
something?
I forgot to count. I should really count and
That'd be
update
better
that.
if you don't.
Yeah, probably.
But if we go back to this show, can you get 1,000 watts from 100 watts? Go watch that show. There's more mathing in here, but it's pretty wild. I think it's pretty educational stuff. And you can actually do this contrast analysis again within Audacity, which is a free program. So you can go try this out. And in fact, I wish you would. And you know what? Do it and share your results. Because I'm going to show you a song here in a second. And I'd love for you guys to go take a look at some of the different crest factors and report them. Comment back what the crest factors you found on some of the songs in your library. And particularly if you have a couple different releases. Let's take a look at what that looks like in a second. But why does it matter? All right. So we're going to take an amplifier that is a 1,000 watts, which should be a 30 dB gain. Okay. So just the way the maths, we talked about that power handling formula, 10 times the log and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so let's just some mathing here. Like I'm a fancy little whiteboard.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we got our crest factor of 3. And remember that sine wave is perfect sine. It's on and off, right? On and off half the time. Okay, half's important. And we've talked about in previous shows how when you double the power, you gain 3 dB, right?
Yep.
You have the power, you lose 3 dB. All right, here's the math for it. So take our 30 dB minus 3 equals 27. So 27 divided by 10, easy enough. 10 to the 2.7th power. And that happens to work out to 500 watts, which is exactly half of the 30 dB 1,000 watt that we started with, right?
Okay.
So a sine wave on a 1,000 watt amp, and we go back to that show. Can you get 1,000 watts from 100 watts? We talk about the same math. Well, what if our crest factor was like the example we saw in the previous slide, 12.5? Okay, same math, 30 minus 12.5 equals 17.5 divided by 10, 10.75. 56 watts. Huge difference. That's coming from an amplifier capable of 1,000 watts. So that crest factor is really, really important. What are we taking away from this? Well, if you have a mild headache at the moment, let me just make it very simple. The lower the crest factor, the more power being used over a period of time. Okay, because this is the same exact amp with 2 different signals and 2 different crest factors. And the power consumption over this frame here is 500 watts versus 56 watts. So a lower crest factor means you're using more power. All right. Bringing it home. Ready? Here we go. Special thanks to my pal Nick Hahn for sending these to me. 1986 release of Master of Puppets. Why wouldn't we do Metallica? Obviously. If you have thought I was a boring prude, you have misjudged me. Anyway, 1986 original release, Master of Puppets. You can just see it right here, right? The amount of blue relative to the white. And down below, the 2017 remaster. And look at that. Now, the peaks maybe aren't higher. And maybe they might be a little higher, but that's not really what we're talking about here. The peaks aren't what matters. The crest factor is going to be much lower in the new release. There's much more energy over time here. Take a look. 1986 crest factor 18.5, 14.12 watts using our same amplifier, right? Crest factor drops to 14.19 in the 2017 remaster, so it more than doubles the amount of power being used, sort of across the board. Right?
Sure.
If we were kind of, again, I don't want to use the word average because my mathematicians out there are going to lose their mind. But if you're a mathematician, honestly, why are you watching?
Yeah.
Really, this is for entertainment purposes, right? But anyway, what's my point? My point is to play the same song with the more compressed remaster in 2017. Our system is working harder. And what does that mean? Here it is, the grand finale. All right. This is drive signal charted against voice coil temperature inside your loudspeaker. That's the blue line.
Okay.
So we can see, there we talked about, 30 dB, 1,000 watts. you know, and we're going on up here to, you know, about 37 or whatever and change. And you can see that temperature rises exponentially with the increase in decibels. Let me make this, put some perspective on this for you. So we're going to go between this line and here.
Okay.
Okay. And that's about a 3 dB increase, which to achieve a 3 dB increase, we always need to double the power.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean for temperature? Well, you can see how much that temperature goes up by the size of that blue line. That is 175 degrees Celsius, which equates to 315 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, it is not a voice coil temperature of 315 degrees Fahrenheit. That is an increase of 315 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. So let's talk about, we're talking about well over 700 degrees here. Let's talk about, you know, the actual temperature. So let's talk about what this means. So yeah, I just did the math in my head, by the way, but look at that. It's pretty close. 707. All right. So take that, mathematicians. Suck it. Just take that. All right. Anyway, let's go right about down here, way down here at 100 Celsius, 212 Fahrenheit. Water turns to coffee.
Yeah, that's exactly how it does it.
Yeah, just like that. Just poof.
Poof. At that 100 degrees Celsius.
It's hot and it turns black. You know?
Boom. Yeah, that's good.
It might involve coffee grounds and a filter.
Yeah,
but anyway, the point is,
there it is.
At 100 Celsius, 212 Fahrenheit, water boils. All right. Moving up here, 350, bake you some brownies to go with that coffee.
Nice.
And those who are literary experts as well as mathematicians, you know that at 451 degrees Fahrenheit, that is where paper burns, thanks to Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. We all learned that in school, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't, you should write your teacher a nasty gram.
Yeah, you were missing out.
And what are speaker cones made out of? Many times.
Paper was a common, like a variation of paper, yeah.
So we're up here at 700 degrees Fahrenheit, well past the combustion temperature of paper. Now, the manufacturers know this, and they treat these speakers so they don't burst into flames. Unless you've seen that cool meme, or I guess it's a picture of a guy's speaker on fire. It does happen.
It does.
It's not funny, but I mean, it's kind of a little funny, But anyway, the point is, we're talking about, to get just 3 dB louder, we're talking about jumping 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And that also correlates to this crest factor, because these systems are working much harder because that average energy over time is much more dense, and they just don't have the ability to cool off as fast. Mm-hmm. We talked a little bit earlier about how much more we're getting for our money these days. Well, yeah, gosh. Not only are our speakers so much better for the money these days, but I mean, the music has made them work harder.
Yeah.
That over that same course of time, the loudspeaker manufacturers have been basically in a battle against the record labels. And it's not just the remasters. This is really common. If you take modern tracks, they're heavily compressed. Mm-hmm. Crest factors are very low. Things like EDM and modern pop have some of the lowest crest factors. They're really just crush the dynamic range out of a lot of these tracks. And I don't know really where we go from here. I feel like, and I would love to have 5 minutes in a room with like Quincy Jones or somebody. I mean, who wouldn't though, honestly, right? Like everybody would want that, honestly. But, but just to talk about what next, right? Do we start putting dynamic range back into music? Is that the next play where we start to allow the songs to breathe a little more? I don't know, But in the meantime, you want to hit it hard, you want to hit it loud, and you want to hit it with danceable stuff. You got low crest factors at high volumes, and that is heat.
So is there any way to take a song, such as when you were showing the example, the Metallica song, the 2017 version, is there any way to fix that or to make it in a live situation so you're not having that? Or is it just, it is what it is?
Probably not in a live situation, but there are things that are the opposite of compressors called expanders. And, I mean, you could certainly go in and try to, I don't know why you would though, I mean, simply because we would be putting dynamic range back in the music, but we're kind of going against the trend of what people are kind of wanting to hear now too, which is, that's the crappy thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but you could use an expander to try to counteract that and try to stretch those peaks out away from the, you know,
But it's not really,
average
not too
density.
realistic that it would be something you'd do.
Nah, not really.
Yeah.
I think the key thing is, I think, number one, understanding what you're doing to your system, understand that, this heat is being generated, and heat is the number one killer of drivers. Everything is working harder when it's getting hot. To have enough rig for the gig, so that you're not having to really push those things out hard, because again, to gain 3 dB, you do have to double the power. So, it's something to think about.
Yeah. Things I did not know.
That's why we do the show.
Yeah. I mean, I was really hoping though, because, commercial pizza ovens are like in a 600 to 700 degree range. So I was hoping.
I feel like this was really. I'm sorry, Rachel. I know. Sometimes she watches our show. I feel like I kind of missed an opportunity to throw some love there to Rachel Lynch. So I blew it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll update the slide and
yep, we could put that commercial pizza oven right up in there.
Maybe if you're watching, Rachel, maybe you could help me out and send me the ideal temperature for cooking the pizza
and the ideal time. Is it 90 seconds or is it a full 2 minutes?
Well, I mean, coal fired. I don't know. Well, maybe next time.
Yeah, we'll have to research that one for a future question. All right. So next week you are going to be out. So next Tuesday night we will be off with a Tuesday night with Ben Stowe. We'll find one of our older shows that you guys haven't seen in a while, and we'll run that next week, and then be back coming after that. And then, So up next, DJNTV.com/chill. The chill room is open for the Tuesday night music show discussion. Brian, Jay, and John and the guys will be in there having a good time and talking shop until the wee hours of the morning. Till the cows come home, most likely.
I admire their stamina.
They are good, and it's a lot of fun. So you guys go out there and join them, and then we'll be back tomorrow with a couple more shows here on DJNTV. So we'll catch you next time. Thanks, everybody. Good night.